Listen, the Emmys were last night. It was a big night for Shogun. And then yesterday, the Toronto International Film Festival wrapped up with the big awards. Between big movies and big TV shows, we have a lot to talk about. Today on the show, the highlights of the Emmys and the takeaways from TIFF. Let's go. I'm Alamin Abdul Mahmoud, and this is Commotion. Look, I think you could be forgiven if you're like, didn't we just, 5 minutes ago, have the Emmys? Because you know what? We are talking about the Emmys again. The last Emmys were in January of this very calendar year, but that's only because the writers and actors strikes delayed them. They were supposed to be last September. This year, we are back on schedule, and the Emmys were last night. Shogun, The Bear, and Hacks dominated the night, but there were still a bunch of surprises along the way. For more on the big winners and who got snubbed, Rachel Ho is here. He's here. Rachel, what's up, pal?
What's going on?
I'm delighted to see you. It's a good day that starts with Rachel Ho. Listen, let me start with Shogun, if you don't mind. This is the show that has now won the most Emmys ever for a single season of television. It won 18 Emmys in total, including Best Drama. It is the first time that a majority non-English language series has won Best Drama. Talk to me about what does it mean for Shogun to win Best Drama?
I think it's a bit of a wake-up call to the industry, really, of saying you can do these really epic kind of shows. Mm-hmm. Doesn't have to be in English, doesn't have to be set in the States, doesn't have to be set in the UK. It can be something that maybe doesn't feel like it would be a winner, but it absolutely is. As long as it's well done, you have amazing performances, good production, great storyline, and you're able to change also source material to be not exactly what it is. You can shift the perspective a little bit. You can play a little, and you can still come out a winner commercially, critically, fan-wise as well. So I think Shogun winning is absolutely, it delighted me. I was so excited last night watching it, seeing them win. It was amazing.
People talk all the time about the risk that they took in sort of making Shogun happen. Mm-hmm. To me, one of the biggest risks in the show is how expensive it is. I mean, this is a show that is every frame is a feast for the eyes, but you go millions and millions of dollars went into making the show, which is say Anna Sawai won Best Lead Actress for her role in Shogun.
Thank you to my team, and thank you to my family. Mom, I love you. You are the reason I'm here. You showed me stoicism, and that's how I was able to portray Mariko. This is to all the women who expect nothing and continue to be an example for everyone. Thank you so much.
Rachel, she was crying before her name was called, just to be nominated, and then she gets on stage, and there's this sort of beautiful, tearful speech. Anna Sawai is the first actress of Asian descent to win this award. You were rooting for her to win. Tell me about why.
First off, it's crazy that it's still a first in, it's 2024. How is that still the thing? Yeah. But whatever. It's really emotional because even though I say it's, how is it still a first?
Yeah.
The fact is people like Anna Sawai, people like myself, we didn't grow up thinking that it was even possible that you could be on a TV show, that you could be an actor, you could do all these things. Yeah. And then the fact that she's there on Emmy night, amongst Carol Burnett and Meryl Streep, it's amazing that she's in that crowd and then she gets to go up on stage and say what she says. It's just very unexpected. I'm sure I feel if I were her, I'd feel how did life kind of take me this way? How did I get to this point? And she's also just immensely talented. So it's really amazing to see somebody so deserving win and get their time. Awards are award shows. They're kind of frivolous. They're kind of whatever, but they do mean something within the industry. Now you'll probably see a lot more things with Anna Sawai in them. A lot more people are going to approach her for parts. And I think that's amazing.
With Hiroyuki Sanada also, he won Best Lead Actor, for Shogun. So you can imagine their careers kind of shift after this, right?
For sure. And I mean, for him, Sanada in particular, he's been around for ages. He's had a lot of success in Japan. He's one of Japan's most kind of famous actors there, most revered actors. And he's done really well over here as well, in North America and around the world. But it is a shift for them. It is something that kind of gives them maybe people who didn't know who they were before, maybe people who kind of passed over Shogun because of the Emmys. Now all of a sudden they're tuning in. They're going to go see who these people are.
It's really like satisfying to hear you talk about that Shogun with such reverence because like we had you on. I don't know if you remember this. We had you on when Shogun first came out, and you were like, "Look, I was a little worried about this show. I was a little worried about how the show was going to be." And then you were really excited to find out that it's good. And now we get to this moment where it's not only good; it has become the most awarded television show ever for a single season. Why do you think it has risen to that level? Like, why do you think the response to the show is of such like gigantic kind of ecstasy?
It's such a simple answer, but truly it's because it's good. It's because it's really well made. And it
Yeah.
just shows if you do the work, if you put in good performances, you cast it well, you put the money in, you give them the resources, people will come. If you build it, they will come, kind of thing, right? Like it got so much word of mouth appeal. It dropped once a week, and I think that that helped as well. Like it built an audience over time. People who were like, "Oh, is this actually good?" Like a political show, a Japanese political
A
show.
historical
It's not
drama.
even an
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like that's actually good. That's actually exciting for a mainstream audience. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And so I think a lot of people just their friends are talking about it, their brothers and sisters talking about it. Like you can't help. When it was out, you couldn't help but be at least curious about what this show was. And I
Yeah.
think that that comes down to just it is a well-made show. And who would have thunk it? If you put well-made television on, people will watch it. Who knew?
We should also talk about The Bear because The Bear broke some records. It won 11 Emmys, the most for any comedy series in a single season as well, including for Best Actor for Jeremy Allen White. It did not take home Best Comedy. They lost
Yikes.
to Hacks, and I think this is worth talking about because the
Yeah.
timing is a little funny. Emmy voters were voting for season 2 of both Hacks and The Bear. However, while they were voting for this, seasons 3 of both of those shows came out. And season 3 of Hacks is maybe the best comedy, of the last 5 years. And season 3 of The Bear is very divisive, and a lot of people didn't like it. Do you read into Hacks' win a sort of recency bias when it comes to Emmy voters? Like, because to me, that was a really big surprise. Everyone sort of knew The Bear season 2 was like a transcendent sort of experience of television.
Yeah. It shocked me. I genuinely thought The Bear was going to win, not because I thought they deserved to win. I just assumed it would win because it's The Bear and it was kind of cleaning up. But
Yeah.
I feel like I get what you mean. Like, I do think you're not supposed to vote that way. Like, you're not supposed to vote in a court. Like, that's not, but you can't help it. Like, you can't help it. You can't help but hear the noise. You can't help but hear people go, is it really a comedy? Because it's not funny. Like, it's not a funny show anymore. Like, I think the first season is like dark comedy. I actually will defend it for being a comedy. Second season, you're kind of going off. Third season, it absolutely was not a comedy. And I feel like, as voters are human too, I suppose. The Emmy voters are human too, and they're gonna get persuaded by those things. And I mean, you're not supposed to do that, but like I can't also blame them for it. And I can see them saying, Hacks is actually funny. Hacks is actually a comedy.
Yeah.
So why don't we award the show that is actually a comedy, not necessarily maybe the most popular show or the one that was, the most well made or the most moving, this and that. But Hacks is all those things too. So I'm not mad at the Hacks win. I think that it's amazing. I absolutely think it's very, very well deserved.
I want to give you a moment to talk about Baby Reindeer because Baby Reindeer took home a bunch of awards. That surprised me. Was that surprising to you to see Baby Reindeer win in so many categories?
Listen, when Baby Reindeer came out, I looked at it and I thought, oh, it's just another Netflix nonsense. I gave it no credit. I was just like, it's just another Netflix show. I'm not, when you say a Netflix show, like it's a bit, derogatory.
It can be a pejorative sometimes. It means,
I think
hacked off a little quicker than you
yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
But then you watch
not Baby
it and
Reindeer.
Go, oh my God, like it was actually really good. I was shocked because everyone kept talking about it. So I went, oh, maybe I should give the show a chance. And then you dive into it and it's amazing. I didn't think that it was going to do as well as it did during the Emmys. Like it didn't strike me as a show that was going to get critical acclaim. It seemed like an internet show, like a show that people are going to go back and forth with on the internet, really have a good amount of discourse. Not necessarily something that voters are going to be like, this is something that we need to award and that we need to have kind of stand up in the pantheon of all of our Emmy winners. This is going to be the thing. But good on it. I actually I'm I'm proud of them. I don't know them, but like I'm very proud of them. Like I think it's amazing. Like you come out and Richard Gadd said it in his acceptance speech. It's like, It's not based on IP. They don't have very well-known actors, particularly outside the UK, and yet they're able to turn this thing out. So it's like, it's an amazing story to hear that they have done as well as they did on a show that I'm sure I'm not the only one that just dismissed it outright when it first came out, or maybe I am, and I'm just jaded. Like,
no, like, listen, it took me weeks. It took me weeks to watch Baby Reindeer. Like when it first came out, I was like, I don't know. It wasn't until the internet sort of said, no, please believe me. You need to get on the show. I was like, legit. Okay, internet, I believe you. I'm going to defer to you on this. But also, just a last closing thought on the Emmys part is the thing that Rachel Gadd said about the idea that, hey, you should take risks on shows that don't necessarily have gigantic stars attached to them. That tracks across all the big winners of this year. That tracks across The Bear. That tracks across Shogun. That tracks across Baby Reindeer. I think like these are shows that like, first of all, they're ensemble casts, and second of all, it's like there is money invested in these shows, and people are like showing up for them in droves, and I think that says something. So, hey, maybe television will learn something. Okay, Rachel Ho, thank you for this conversation about the Emmys, but we're going to keep you around, pal, because we're going to switch gears. We got to move on to the Toronto International Film Festival because it just wrapped up, and you know what that means. It means we now know the winner of this year's big prize, the People's Choice Award.
And the overall 2024 People's Choice Award presented by Rogers goes to The Life of Chuck, directed by Mike Flanagan.
That is Cameron Bailey announcing this year's People's Choice Award winner for Best Film at TIFF, chosen by the people. Rachel Ho, you're still around, but because we had so much fun on Promotions Podcast last week, TIFF and 12, how could we not bring back our paths? Rad Simon Pillay, Terry Hart, Rachel, Rad, Terry, you guys ready to talk some TIFF? Are we ready to do this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, that was a little too excited. But all right, I appreciate it. Rad, let's talk about The Life of Chuck, man. It won the People's Choice Award. It was not on a lot of people's radar as one of the contenders for People's Choice. Did the people make the right choice?
No, but do they ever? Do the people ever make the right choice?
This is why you're here, pal. This is
the tyranny of the masses, Alameen. But no, like.
Okay.
And look, and not because I don't hate The Life of Chuck or anything. No,
Yeah.
I'm not about it. But the thing is, like, this is a movie that actually does feel it makes total sense to me that it won the People's Choice Award. It is a movie that feels very engineered to win the People's Choice Award. Because for those who don't know, like, Life of Chuck is a movie that is dealing with death. It's grappling with death, but it's not a downer. It's
an adaptation of a Stephen King novella.
Novella, yeah, exactly. It's about how like it's exploring death through the life of Chuck, and it's very sentimental and cutesy about a very ornamental. It plays with its structure and genre in a way that isn't really like revealing in any way. It doesn't really add a whole lot, but it's very the novelty is enough to get people by, and it's got a really great dance scene. So I mean, this is a movie that is it's all around pleasantness. It's very comforting, and I think in a year at a festival where, especially for me, it's been really heavy. Like I've been watching nothing but corrupt politicians and genocides at TIFF. Like this, so to have a movie like this that it's so comforting and so inoffensive, it totally makes sense that the audience chose this one.
Can I just say, it is like so movie critic to use all these words that I think like are beautiful words, but you use them as slurs. You know, they're like, it's sentimental and it's so pleasant. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a nice time. What are you talking about? But Rachel, I'll go to you because you've also seen it. Did the people make the right choice, Rachel?
No, they didn't. But you know,
All right,
I agree with Rad. What are you
to
expecting?
Okay.
It's such a nothing movie. Like, it's not good. It's not bad. It's nothing. Like, I look at it and it's, you know, I was just saying with the Emmys, like, it feels like a Netflix movie. Like, it feels like something Netflix would have been like, let's put this out there to get like some awards buzz and this and that. I just think it's just such I'm so indifferent to the movie. It made me angry when I heard that it won. It's literally the most aggressively indifferent nothing burger of a movie. It doesn't really pull either way. I would rather it be absolutely terrible because then at least it's interesting, but it's not interesting.
Can I just tell you, Terry, everything that I just heard from Rachel and Rad tells me I'm gonna love this movie. I can't wait.
You and me, baby.
I can't. It's just you and me, pal, with the pleasantness and sentimentality and just being like, well, we had a nice time at the movies. That was really nice. Okay, Terry, we should also note another significant winner, which is a 4-part docuseries, A Tragically Hip No Dress Rehearsal. It took home the People's Choice Documentary Award. What do you think of that pick? What do you make of that?
Oh, you know, this is a series that got everybody in their feels. I mean, The Tragically Hip is so squarely Canadian.
Yeah.
This is, a Canadian band. We've had
You're talking to a Kingston, Ontario boy over here. Be careful.
I
All
know,
right, continue.
I know. We've
Yeah.
had like national Canadian mourning around our loss of Gord
Yeah.
Downey, which is what it feels like.
Yeah.
At the festival, they had choir. I know you were there, Elamine.
I sang
as
my
part of
heart
the choir.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that a No Dress Rehearsal, Tragically Hip No Dress Rehearsal won. It surprised me that it was eligible because it's a docu-series. And I thought that it was for a documentary, which a docu-series is a very different, format than a straight up documentary. But, nobody's going to be mad about seeing the Tragically Hip get more flowers, right? Like,
No, hey, I'm not mad at that at all.
I can't be as cynical as Rad.
And thank God
I'm
for
happy for you guys. I'm happy.
Thank you. I will say it's worth the thing that you talked about is worth noting. Like when this show, when the series aired, the Tragically Hip No Dress Rehearsal aired, it was a 4-hour documentary. They screened the entire 4-hour thing, and there is something to be said about this encroachment of television on film festivals. But that is not the conversation we're having today. Okay, Go ahead.
Let's just say, like, we do have the primetime section in the festival that they do have an award for. So I'm not sure how this straddles. Yeah, I'm not sure how this straddles both sides.
Yeah. Rad, I want to go back to a thing that you mentioned earlier, though. This idea that this year's festival feels a little more tense. We've seen protests. We've seen protests at the documentary called Russians at War. Screenings were paused due to the festival's safety concerns. Now TIFF has just announced that the film's been rescheduled, so they're still going to program it at the Lightbox, which is the home of TIFF. What are your thoughts on this? The idea that the screenings were paused and then they're going to resume again?
Well, I mean, and we talked about this in the TIFF and 12 podcast. Like, I'm glad that the screenings are resumed, so people can actually see the film. This film that people keep calling Russian propaganda, which I don't think that it is. I mean, how could a film where the Russian soldiers that it's following in their invasion of Ukraine, where they're critical of where they're at, where they're critical of state media, where they're critical of Russian propaganda, how can that in itself be Russian propaganda? And again, and I think I know look, my mentions blew up after we had our conversation in TIFF and 12. Right, a lot of feelings, and I understand those feelings. But again, I think this is a movie worth watching because it shows you a human side on the other side of the conflict, and that in no way delegitimizes or takes away from what the Ukrainian people are suffering and all the narratives we've seen about how much loss they've endured. So I'm glad the screenings are back on. TIFF has stood by this film throughout in its statements and saying look,
still standing by
watching.
it.
Yeah, and look, I mean, but like you said, this has been an intense TIFF, like between Russians at War, and then of course like one of the earlier on before Russians at War, I had this really anxious, anxiety-inducing experience watching the BB Files, which is the Benjamin Netanyahu documentary at TIFF, which premiered at TIFF, showing his police interrogation video. So it has been a really heavy.
You talked about canine units in the lobby.
Canine units were in the lobby, lots of security, people wanting to accost the filmmaker to make sure their voices are heard. So there was a lot of that, and you know what, like I haven't felt TIFF be this intense since 2009. And Terry probably remembers what I'm talking about. This is when TIFF introduced the City to City program, and they had decided to highlight Tel Aviv in this partnership with Brand Israel. And that, brought out a lot of voices about TIFF giving a platform for kind of a facelift during this really, intense period in Israel's politics that never went away. And that created a huge division in the entire film industry. Like you had Jane Fonda signing a petition calling out TIFF on giving this kind of faceless and wading into this and having this partnership. So that incident created a division, I think, in the Canadian film industry that has not healed up until this day. And then of course a lot of those wounds have been reopened. So this TIFF really took me back to that.
Can I just say I'm grateful to be talking to some TIFF historians, because I didn't know about that. Like I wasn't in the city or wasn't particularly plugged into the film world when that happened. Terry, you've been covering the festival for 29 years now. Did this year's festival have a different feel to it, do you think?
I certainly had a different feel than the past few years. King Street was a buzz. There was a real energy. I saw my last film on Saturday night and I came out and I was like, well, this is still happening. My goodness. Yeah. And, remember in 2020 to 2022, those were the COVID years. So we had this weird hybrid festival and restrictions and all kinds of complications in those couple of years. And then last year, 2023, we had both the writers and actors strike. So attendance from talent was limited,
Yeah.
and therefore attendance from fans in fan zones, etc., was very limited. And I just feel like TIFF's back, baby.
Yeah.
And they were
Yeah.
back in a big way, and they were back in a big controversial way, and they were back in a way of people being out with autographs and seeking people. And that was the excitement that we'd been missing from the festival from these hybrid years and then the strikes.
Yeah, no, I really needed that energy and that excitement back. Rachel, when you think about this year's TIFF, Life of Chuck is not a defining moment for you, but what is a defining moment from this year's TIFF for you?
It's kind of, I want to echo Terry's sentiments a little bit there, because this has been my, like, for me on the press side of things, kind of my first proper TIFF. I only started doing this during the pandemic days. So my first TIFF with a press pass was in 2021, which was like a hybrid model. And then 2022 was still kind of hybrid-y. I thought 2022 felt normal, but everyone around me kept telling me, they're like, this is weird. And I was like,
it gets
okay.
bigger. It gets
Yeah,
bigger,
I was
Rachel.
like, all
Yeah.
right then. And then last year, obviously, with the strikes, like that one did feel, even just as somebody who's gone to TIFF in the past, it just felt really pared down. It felt very kind of bare bones in a way. So this one felt really full. Like it felt really busy. I was incredibly stressed out for days on end there. And it was really fun. Like it was really fun seeing everybody really excited about films, and everyone talk, like you bumped into anybody and everyone had strong opinions on every single movie, whether it was Life of Chuck, Amelia Perez, those things. Like everyone
Yes.
just felt something really, really strong. And that for me, like this is a TIFF that like it's 100%, I'm never going to forget it, because it was just my very first experience of being on this side of it, like genuinely seeing a proper TIFF come through. So.
Would you say, alongside all the serious, heavy, important movies, sometimes as you watch a TIFF movie, you just want to be entertained. And for Rad, this movie delivered that.
Quiet on the set.
Hey, Pharrell.
Hey, how you doing, man? You know, it'd be cool is if we told my story with Lego pieces.
Seriously?
Yes.
Lego.
Just be open.
Every time I say the Pharrell Lego movie, I feel like I'm having a stroke. But that is, in fact, what happened. It's a documentary called Piece by Piece, or should I say blockumentary? Sorry, that's a Stuart Berman joke. I know, I don't feel good about it either. Look, but it's a documentary of Pharrell's career. What's amazing is if you go to the Guardian site and you read all of Rad's reviews of TIFF movies, you'll notice that the highest reviewed film of the festival that Rad saw, with 4 stars out of 5, is the Pharrell Lego movie. Rad, this is your chance to explain yourself, young man. Go ahead.
I mean, like, look, I was talking about the heaviness of the festival, and so this definitely was like a bomb for me, this Pharrell movie. I mean, even you, I'm here for you calling it blockumentary. Like, I was like that kind of optimism of it's exactly what I need. And like, I think Lego, it was a really imaginative way to explore, Pharrell's kind of music and stuff. Because, I never imagined Pharrell to be the guy that's worth a story. But the fact is that the guy, if you think about his music, it's like he's taking blocks from different Lego sets and putting it all together and mashing it up into its own thing. And so that's why like the Lego visualization actually really worked. And of course, Pharrell, you forget that even if Pharrell's not, he doesn't strike you as your favorite artist, this guy worked with some of your favorite artists.
Yeah.
This guy's, I just realized, like, I have this.
Oh,
This
no, he's holding up a CD. He's holding up a CD.
But this is Rex in Effect, their debut album with Rump Shaker. I didn't know
Sure, of course
that
it is.
Rump Shaker, like Pharrell worked on Rump Shaker, and so to see Rump Shaker in Lego form, that was pure joy.
Yeah,
Melanie.
yeah, not enough joy in Life of Chuck. Plenty of joy in the Pharrell documentary. Unbelievable. Okay, we got literally a minute left here, but a lot of the movies that screened at TIFF will actually soon be available to the general public, either in theaters or in a streaming service. We're gonna literally go 20 seconds to each of you about, hey, what's a movie that people should make some time for? Terry, I'm gonna start with you.
Will and Harper, documentary about Will Ferrell and his friend Harper Steele doing a road trip across the United States of America, just as Harper Steele has transitioned and living life as a woman. It was my second film of when the festival started, and out of the 47 movies that I saw, including screenings before, this one has really stayed with me, and it's coming on Netflix September 27th. It's really touching, and it's really, really important.
Yeah, I completely agree. I really love that documentary. Rad, 20 seconds to you, good sir.
Listen, we talked about it before. I'm gonna stick with the Nora as one of the best movies out of Cannes, one of the best movies out of this festival. This is the movie about the sex worker who gets married and unleashes chaos.
Won the
and
Palme d'Or.
It won the Palme d'Or. It's thrilling. It's fun. It's got madcap screwball rom-com energy and just all the affection for that movie.
Rachel, you literally only have time to say the name of the movie, so give me a movie.
And then get The Outsiders director doing a bat nonsense crazy Megalopolis. Go watch that because it's crazy.
It'll make you mad for the right reasons.
All the jaws are on the floor.
Wow.
Guys, we got to leave it there. Rats up and play. Rachel Ho, Terry Hart, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for this chaos today. I appreciate you. My name is Elamine. This show is called Commotion, and we will see you tomorrow.